In 2021, the Canon M50 still holds up as one of the best cameras for YouTube. And today, Omar and I are going to be comparing these two cameras, the differences, the similarities, and which one is best for YouTube videos.
You got to just press record.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Nolan Molt with Think Media, and I wanted to let you guys know that this really isn't a photography versus battle. This isn't really even a video versus battle. This is a YouTube camera versus battle. And so today I am joined by a very special guest, Omar. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm pumped to put these cameras head to head and we'll see which one is the winner.
So Omar, you got the M50, I got the Fuji XT-200. First, I want to talk about the similarities between these two cameras because there's actually a lot that are very similar between these two things. There's a lot of differences as well, but can we just start by talking about what's similar between these two cameras?
Yeah, I mean, I think hands down, some main similarities right up front is that they both have fairly small form factors. These are what you would call a crop censored camera or crop censored cameras. And I think that's huge to know that when you're getting these cameras, you're getting something that you can pack up, you could vlog with, but also do, YouTube talking head videos and things like that. Fuji's really well known for their color science. And so one reason why the M50 is awesome is because people love how it looks straight out of camera without touching the image at all in post. But I mean, you've been using the Fuji. Like, would you attest to the idea that the colors are great too?
The colors really, I was actually really surprised with the image straight out of this as far as color goes, because Canon actually has some of my favorite color science. I love the look of the M50, but when I put this onto my computer, I couldn't tell. I'm like, do I like the M50 look more? Do I like the XT-200 more? So as far as color goes, like this gives you really great skin tones, gives you very vibrant colors. Really all I did when shooting with this video was boost up a little bit of the saturation, add a little bit of contrast, and I was getting a really nice looking image out of this. Now on this camera too, like you said, they're both lightweight. This also has that flip out screen. And what I love about this flip out screen is the LCD monitor is very sharp. It's very bright. It's like, for this price range, it's a really legit flip out screen. And so I really like how big it is and how clear it is. But the M50 also has that flip out screen.
No, yeah, for sure. One of the, I think, must-haves in any YouTube camera is the ability to see yourself while you're filming. Power tip though, make sure you look in the lens when you're filming yourself. Don't look at the screen or else you're not going to be looking at the people watching your videos. But I think another similarity is that Fuji has put out a great camera with autofocus. I think what's so cool about the Canon M50 is because it's autofocus is so trustworthy, you can know that you're always going to be in focus. And, you found that the autofocus is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I would say the M50 has a bit better autofocus, but when we're doing videos like this has eye tracking. And I believe the M50 does as well. Is that right?
The M50 Mark II does.
Okay.
I don't know if it's software based though. There's a big debate right now that like, is the M50 Mark II like I got real eye autofocus or is it just, trying to make you think it is? But
interesting. So that this actually kind of has a one up in that sense.
Yeah.
I still think, the M50, if you're watching this, you're not familiar with that camera. It has fantastic autofocus, but this really surprised me with the autofocus. It's really good. It does track the eye. And especially when you're just sitting down in front of a camera like we're doing here, this is definitely going to do the job. There's no question. The autofocus is great. Now, as far as price goes, there is a difference when it comes to these two cameras. The XT-200 actually comes in $800 for the lens and the camera. Of course, you got to get both of them. If you already have some Fuji lenses, you can get this camera for $700, but that's still pretty expensive. And so what does the M50 come in at?
Yeah, I mean, the M50, you can get refurbished on Canon's website for just the body at $460, which I think is pretty good. And then with the lens refurbished, it's about $520. And I would even say in regards to price, maybe the M50 has a little bit of a one-up because it's been out a lot longer. You could definitely shop used, refurbished. I found on eBay, you can sometimes score it for $350, $400 with the kit lens. But definitely, I would say the M50 wins on a price standpoint.
That's pretty sweet. I mean, yeah, the M50, that is a great price for, and so we're really wondering, is this worth the little bit of extra cash? We'll find out. But as far as video specs go, both these cameras can shoot 1080 at 24, 30 frames, even 60 frames per second. This camera does shoot at 4K, 24 and 30 frames per second, just like the M50, but this does not crop in. And so the M50, when you shoot in 4K, remind me, it crops in, and what else happens
Yeah,
there?
so a few things happen in 4K. Which I would say the M50 isn't really a true 4K camera, even though it does shoot 4K. So the limitations that happens is it does have a huge crop in factor when you pop into 4K. The max frame rate in 4K is 24 frames. And so if you like shooting higher frame rate stuff, or if you like the 30 frames look, you can't do that in 4K. And then I think the biggest flaw of all when it comes to 4K is the dual pixel autofocus turns into this untrustworthy contrast-based autofocus, which isn't reliable. And so everything we talked about, good autofocus, goes out the window when you turn on 4K on the M50. However, if you lock in your focus, it's a great image, but definitely some shortcomings, because there's a ton of great 4K cameras out there that are trustworthy with autofocus and not having the crop factor like the Fuji does.
For sure. And I know you recommend the M50 to a lot of people. Now, when you do that, are you recommending that they shoot in 1080 instead of 4K?
100%, especially if you're filming yourself. I don't think, putting a stuffed animal, locking in focus and using focus peaking, it just isn't like all that, practical, right? So yeah, I 100% would encourage those who buy an M50 know that you are probably going to be better off shooting in 1080.
And, as video creators ourselves, I would even just recommend to people, if you're watching this, get started in 1080. You really don't need 4K. The reality is a lot of people aren't going to be able to tell the difference. And especially the M50 gives you a great 1080 image, and you can definitely get away with that. And especially if people are watching on their smartphones, again, they can't even see the 4K image. But that brings me to one of the things that honestly I hate about this camera. And in my opinion, the 1080 on this camera is so unusable. It looks like a webcam almost. It's like this over sharpened image, but it looks like super low quality. And so I really recommend, if you get this camera, strictly shoot in 4K. However, another thing I don't like about this camera is it overheats pretty easily. And you actually have, I believe, a 15-minute record limit on this camera when shooting in 4K. And then you start getting into overheating issues. And so there's a lot of things I don't like about that. But tell me about the M50. Do you ever run into overheating issues, especially when you're shooting in 1080, since that's what you're using this camera for?
No, I mean, I've been using this camera for maybe up and coming to close to over 2 years now, and I have never experienced any overheating. Even when shooting in 4K, no overheating, and so that's really cool. I didn't know that about the Fuji when going down to 1080. It's actually something that a lot of people don't talk about, and this maybe just shed some light, is some 4K cameras aren't that good in 1080, and so I think it's just something to know where if you're not ready to edit 4K, don't get a 4K camera and then know that your 1080 is just not going to be good. That's the unfortunate reality about the Fuji.
Yeah, 100%. As far as record limits go on the M50, is there anything like that when shooting YouTube videos?
No, you're going to get your traditional, DSLR, cut off at 29, 30 minutes. And so if you don't think you're going to be shooting longer than that, I think you're good. I have done moments when I'm shooting YouTube videos and I'm filming myself, I've definitely gone over a 15-minute threshold. And so 30 minutes is nicer. No record limit's even better, but that 30 minutes does come in clutch.
Now, that's another interesting conversation. We'll keep it short, but do you really need a camera that has unlimited record time? Or, as you're shooting videos, like, what is it actually like working with a camera that stops at 30 minutes?
No, honestly, when shooting YouTube content, I find myself, because we, really emphasize preparing, getting your scripts in and really reviewing those, that you don't necessarily need a full-blown, hour-long recording of yourself trying to get your video done. But you can stop recording when you feel like you finished a shot, and that'll probably actually help editing in post, because every time you started a new clip, you had a great take at the end of the last one. So yeah, in regards to shooting, when I shoot YouTube videos, I do find that you don't necessarily need super long record limits, because if I had a good take and I hit my point, I could just stop recording and then start recording again and get my next point on. And that actually helps in editing, because now I know every time I see a new clip on the timeline that the last moment of the last clip is a good take. And so I don't think it's a deal breaker that the Fuji has a 15-minute record limit.
And that kind of brings us into our next topic, which is live streaming. If you want to do that long form content, Can you do it on these cameras? That's kind of the question. And when it comes to the XT-200, you can have a clean HDMI output. Basically, all that means is that you can use this to live stream. Again, I haven't live streamed with this camera, and I don't know if it were to overheat or anything like that. That's something I would be worried about with this. But can you talk about the M50? Can you live stream with it if someone wanted to use that camera?
Yeah, I definitely think the Canon M50 is a good camera for live streaming. I wouldn't say it's a great camera because you see all your settings and you can't use your autofocus if you're using an HDMI cord. Now, because Canon has the Canon utility software for your webcam, you can use a USB, and that enables autofocus, but you're losing some quality there. We have some videos on that. I think Nolan will put them in the description, so check out the videos on live streaming with the Canon M50, but definitely doable. Like, you have many ways to attack it, and one power tip is I actually like using a continuous power when I live stream, and I have not found any overheating issues when live streaming for long periods of time or even Zoom calls.
You know, and that's actually another similarity with this camera too. You do have a USB-C input on here where you can charge the camera. So if you are doing longer shoots, you can just throw this thing onto a charger just like the M50. Now, as far as getting a good image in low light goes with these cameras, they both have the same sensor size. And really when it comes down to getting that good low light image, you are going to need a better lens, a more expensive lens. But both of these cameras, I would say stack up about the same. They're not amazing in low light, but you can definitely use them in those situations.
Yeah, and I would even ask, like, how are the lens options for the Fuji camera?
You know, I've used a few of them. My favorite lens that I've used with this is the 16 millimeter 1.4 lens. It's very sharp.
Sweet.
It gives you a really cool blurry background, but that lens, I think it actually costs maybe the same amount as the camera, maybe a little bit more. And so they do have a lot of good options when it comes to that Fuji system. And so I've been happy with the lenses that I've used so far.
Yeah, with the Canon M50, I think because, again, it's been out a little bit longer, there are a little bit more options in regards to lens options. But we found that the Sigma 16 1.4 is like your go-to YouTube lens. They also have a couple other lenses, and then Canon has been adding a few here and there. But when it comes to YouTube talking head videos, this setup is pretty awesome.
Hey, if you guys are enjoying this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up.
And if you like this style of video where me and Nolan are chopping up the chicken, let us know down in the comments below, and let us know what other cameras you want us to discuss in future videos like this.
All right, Omar, let's talk about the conclusions. Which one should the people buy and why? Okay, I want you to start. Is the M50 the winner or the XT-200? Uncropped 4K. Yeah, it's a bit over sharpened. Yeah, I don't like the image that much. The colors are good, but honestly, what do you think?
Dude, I really just think that the Canon M50 shines when it comes to most people getting started with YouTube, and that's the filter we actually are viewing these cameras through. You're getting started, and you don't want any hurdles along the way. I definitely think most people aren't even ready to get started with 4K because their laptops or computers can't handle it. So that's one reason. This has great 1080, trustworthy autofocus, great colors. And this camera is just so easy to use no matter what you need to use it for. And honestly, it has just stood the test of time and has proven itself time and time again. And so I just absolutely still love the Canon M50 this year.
You know, as far as the XT-200 goes, I really think it's so close. Like if there was a detail sharpening thing that you could turn down in this camera, I might have a different opinion on it because I don't mind shooting in 4K. 4K is, cool, and you can crop in a little bit, but I just think that the image is not quite there. When it comes to the M50 1080 image versus this 4K footage, I actually just kind of prefer the M50. And like you said, there's a lot of things good going for the M50. Omar, really, when it comes down to it, people need different features for their camera, for their YouTube setup, because of their content is different. And everyone has a different need, but you actually made a great video. So click on the screen right now and check out this video by Omar where he tells you what camera you should buy for YouTube. See you guys in the next video.